What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. Justin here. As always, thanks for stopping by and hanging out with me today for another What I've Been Watching video, my monthly series where I go over everything that I watched in the previous month, give you recommendations, let you know cool things to watch, things to stay away from, and it's a way for me to cover a bunch of things that I don't always have time to cover on the channel. So do me a favor, guys, go ahead and like this video and let's just dive into everything that I watched in November. So guys, I keep track of everything that I watch every month on the Letterboxd app. If you guys follow me on there, I'll follow you back. It's a great app for just keeping track of everything you watch as well as leaving reviews. People can follow one another. People leave quirky reviews, serious reviews. It's a really, really great resource for movie fans. I absolutely love diving through reviews and it's just a lot of fun. And it also, you know, you can go back throughout your whole year and you can keep track of everything that you watched. So I think I have 11 or 12 titles that we're gonna go over here. Some good ones, some I've done full reviews on the channel. So let's just go ahead and dive into it with Wolf Creek was the first thing I watched in November. This is an Australian movie and it takes place in the Australian outback where this deranged serial killer abducts these people and sort of tortures them and murders them. I know there's a Wolf Creek TV series that came out a few years ago, as well as this movie actually had a sequel or two. I'm not sure how many Wolf Creek sequels there are, but this is a movie that's, for whatever reason, I just had not seen yet. And to be honest, after watching it, it was okay. It was a little bit better than average. I gave it 3 stars and a heart on this. It started out really great. The performances are great, but like a lot of movies like this that don't have a lot of strong story or plot, it just fizzled out a little bit towards the end for me. The guy who played the killer in the movie was fantastic. I know a lot of Australian natives remember this actor from some sort of children's show or something, so to see him play this character, I think was a little jarring for people who were familiar with him. I just didn't love this movie. I liked it okay. It just didn't blow me away. I've heard so many people talk about Wolf Creek throughout the years that I thought it was just going to be incredible. But for me, it was just a little run-of-the-mill slasher, you know, the type of movie that was coming out at the time in 2005. So if you're a die-hard 2000s horror slasher sort of torture porn fan, you may like it. Otherwise, I don't think it's gonna really blow any way or offer anything new to the genre. Just your typical creepy old man hack and slash abduction film. Next up, 2021's Censor, directed by Prano Bailey Bond. It centers around a character called Enid. The movie takes place in the 80s and she is a film censor in the UK, back in the video nasty era. It's her job to comb through hundreds of films and decide what scenes need to be cut out, what can be left in, decide a rating, or decide if the movie should even be released at all. One of the films that comes across her desk by director Frederick North is eerily reminiscent of something that happened to her as a child in the disappearance of her younger sister. She was present during the disappearance of her younger sister, but she just can't seem to remember anything about what happened. And one of the films that she comes across her desk sort of brings back some memories, and she sort of dives into this director's work to see if she can close the loose ends of her sister's disappearance. Great release from Vinegar Syndrome for this one. The fictional filmmaker in the movie, and each of the slipcover sides of the slipcover is the cover of one of his fictional films, Beastmen and Asunder. So really, really cool. I highly recommend Censor. I gave this one 3.5 stars. Check out my full review in the link below. Next up, 2009's The Collector, another mid-2000s sort of cult classic movie that everybody throughout the years has told me, you have to see The Collector, you have to see The Collector, it's awesome. And although the premise was really cool about these two people that sort of come to a house for 2 different reasons, one having set up all of these different traps, sort of like Home Alone style, except they'll actually kill you. Desperate to repay his debt to his ex-wife, an ex-con plots a heist at his new employer's country home, unaware that a second criminal has also targeted the property and rigged it with a series of deadly traps. A lot of Home Alone style traps. And although this movie has some brutal scenes of violence, it's shot really well. It was actually directed by Marcus Dunstan, who did a handful of the Saw movies. I can't remember how many he did. Maybe it was just one. Similar to Wolf Creek, this movie has a great premise and it starts off with a lot of steam, but once you get about 45 minutes to an hour in, it just starts to really get repetitive and really loses any steam that it did have at the beginning. It didn't really do anything for me aside from a couple cool kills, and the look of The Collector is awesome. I am aware that there's a sequel, and I've actually heard some people like the sequel better, so I'm sure I'll definitely check that one out somewhere down the line. But as far as this, I gave it 2.5 right down the middle. Next up, 2018's The Farm. This is another movie that I did do a full in-depth review of. This movie is bonkers, crazy, fucked up, offensive, gnarly. This movie is out there, guys. I was scrolling through Tubi at 2 or 3 in the morning. I saw the thumbnail and the premise, and I just had to see it. A young couple gets kidnapped and treated like farm animals after stopping at a roadside diner to eat meet. This movie has a really basic structure that we've seen a bunch of times, where you have a young couple traveling across country and ends up needing a place to stay, and they pick the wrong place to stay in the case of the farm. Basically, this is a human processing plant. They treat humans like farm animals. The people running this farm has a catering company. Like you'd assume from the title and the premise, they basically kill people, chop them up, and turn them into food and feed the people's bodies as nice catered food. It's absolutely ridiculous. There are some really extreme scenes in this movie. They have women hooked up to milkers for that they call dairy cows. They have people that they're turning into ground beef and sausages. It's really gross, really vile to watch, and I highly recommend it. I gave The Farm 3.5 stars, which is way above average. I had a real kick out of this one. Not for the faint of heart, but yeah, watch it for free on Tubi right now, and check out my review down below. Next up, 2021's Wrong Turn remake. Just right out the gate, guys, I gave this movie 1.5 stars. I did not care for this movie at all. Maybe I had high expectations for this movie, and upon a second rewatch, I'll get the humor of it, because that's basically all I can see somebody getting out of this, is just laughing at how absurd and ridiculous it is. It's not scary. It follows a similar setup, a similar premise to the original Wrong Turn movies, where they go out into the woods of Appalachia and stumble across people who they shouldn't, and all of these people do very bad things to them. In the original movie, it's like inbred backwoods people who just do crazy torture and rape shit. This movie really isn't that. I don't want to spoil it a whole lot, but they definitely take the premise and switch it up a little bit and just go into full bonkers, ridiculous territory. By the end, I was just laughing my ass off. Every scenario, every character decision, every situation in this movie is so beyond implausible that even for somebody who watches dumb shit all the time, I just was out. I was out. After 1 or 2 or 3 dumbass things happen in this movie, I'm just like, oh, come on. And I just tapped out. So if you want to torture yourself, watch Wrong Turn 2021. Next up, 2015's Bone Tomahawk. This was directed by Craig Zahler, who also did Brawl in Cell Block 99, and he also did Dragged Across Concrete. Both of those movies I really dug. Now, those movies, Brawl in Cell Block and Dragged Across Concrete, have similar issues that Bone Tomahawk does, as far as being overly long and having extended scenes of dialogue that don't really pertain to a lot of the plot. But in those movies, in Brawl in Cell Block 99 and Dragged Across Concrete, they served the story. I found them to be really interesting. They had a really interesting premise. With Bone Tomahawk, it is just dry, boring, uninteresting dialogue scene after long, drawn-out, boring, uninteresting dialogue scene. I struggled to make it through this one. I gave it, what'd I give it? Yeah, I gave it 2.5 stars, which is right down the middle because the movie looks good, the performances are okay, and there is one unforgettable scene of violence towards the middle or end of the movie, and that is incredibly shocking, incredibly gory and graphic and well done. But as a whole, it's just simply too long with not enough to justify this bloated runtime, and ultimately I would not recommend it. Just look up the Bone Tomahawk infamous scene and just watch that scene and go on with your life. Next up, Ghostbusters 1 and 2. I did super in-depth reviews of the first Ghostbusters movie and Ghostbusters 2. You guys can check that out down below. These are not just reviews, these are like retrospectives where I talk about behind the scenes stuff, the making up, all that. So check out my review. I also just dropped my review for Ghostbusters 2016. I'm gonna see Afterlife this week, and that review will be coming as well. But Ghostbusters 1 and 2. Next up, 2021's Black Friday. I also did a full in-depth review of Black Friday, the zombie parasite alien invasion Black Friday movie starring Devon Sawa and Bruce Campbell. Bruce Campbell and Devon Sawa play 2 employees of this sort of low-end toy store that is overtaken by all these parasitic zombie alien people on the eve of Black Friday. It's a lot of fun. I had a really good time with Black Friday. I highly recommend it. I don't remember where I watched it. I think I just rented it. It's streaming. You guys are smart. You'll find it. Next up, 2011's Snowtown. Now, this is a movie that forever, years and years, I had heard that it was one of the most disturbing, one of the most fucked up movies that you'll ever see. It's based on actual true crime events, the Snowtown murders that happened in Australia. The actual crimes are absolutely shocking and horrific. I highly highly suggest watching a documentary or listening to a podcast. And in my opinion, doing that will be a way more enriching and interesting experience than watching the movie. I gave this one 2.5 stars. To me, this didn't even capture half of what actually went down in the actual story. The performances are incredible. The way this movie is directed is really, really cool. That's why I didn't give it lower than, at least middle of the road, 2.5 stars. Kind of shot like sort of how Larry Clark shoots his film, where it seems like you're really just in the room with these people. The conversations are really naturalistic and really believable. So in that aspect, I would recommend it. But as far as the narrative, it's just a little slow and it's not near as intense as the actual crimes. I would suggest, like I said, watch a documentary, listen to Sword and Scale or Lights Out podcast or some in-depth thing that they'll really tell you about what happened, because it'll blow your freaking mind. It's one of the most crazy, horrific true crime stories that I've ever heard about this guy. I guess the basic premise is this guy starts taking it upon himself for vigilante justice to kill pedophiles, people who he deems as pedophiles, and he starts killing them one after another in these extremely brutal and sadistic ways, and he eventually gathers a group of people, a group of accomplices in his little town to help him commit these murders. He ends up putting them all in these barrels of acid and storing them, and that's why they're called like the barrel murders or something like that too. But check out that crime story. It's absolutely crazy. And last and least is Mosquito. 1994's Mosquito. This it's a creature feature that involves all of these alien oversized gigantic mosquitoes that overtake this town. They're mutated from space or some shit. I don't know. A couple scenes where the mosquitoes are actually causing havoc, and there's cool like scenes of graphic like violence and special practical effects. Those scenes are awesome, but there's only about 2 or 3 of them. So to get to these really awesome practical effect scenes, you have to wade through like an hour and 15 minutes of just boring terribleness. And believe me, I am the biggest fan of So Bad They're Good movies. Trust me, I love The Room and Birdemic and all those things and the Neil Breen stuff, but this one is just bad. It's not interesting or fun bad. So I would suggest just going on YouTube, watching like the best scenes from Mosquito and checking out those cool practical effects scenes. And other than that, skip it. I don't think it's worth your time. Unfortunately, it bummed me out. I was really excited about it. I actually paid like 12, 15 bucks for a damn Blu-ray of this, and I wasted my money on it, damn it. I'll wait till it goes out of print and then sell it on eBay. So anyway, guys, that is it. Thank you so much for watching another What I've Been Watching video. I do these every single month. I'm a little late on this one, so thanks for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Stay tuned for the announcement of the brand new channel that I'm starting. I'm starting a brand new channel that's going to be dedicated to physical media, the super deep cut cult movies, vlogs, movie hunting, all of that stuff. So I'm really excited to be announcing the second channel. That channel will be kicking off with this massive Vinegar Syndrome Black Friday haul, so check that out. But for now, guys, I think we're done here. Stay weird. Remember to always be yourself, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.